Hey guys, and thank you for joining our first video series. I'm Kris from Advisory, joined here with one of our engineers as well, Dan.
Hey.
And hey, and today we're going to be talking about the cool things you can do with Chrome profiles. I got that right the first time, right? Yeah. Yeah, Dan, go ahead, take it away.
Sure thing, Kris. So recently we needed some better granular management over our Chrome browsers. As we move forward into 2020, more and more applications start to run out of the browser, and you're seeing less and less of the standard like desktop applications. So for that, we needed a solution that allowed us to manage and control updates without having to use patching through an MDM. So to find that solution, we turned to Google itself, and we found they have a great managed Chrome profile setting within their G Suite. So to just show you what that looks like, we can launch Chrome. We have it set up here on our test machine. Now you can see you're greeted with just the Chrome profiles screen. If you've used any kind of backup and sync or browser-based profiles in the past, the screen will probably be pretty familiar to you. Just to give you an idea of what the workflow looks like, you would, obviously you can pick your name, so we'll do Dan in this case, and we'll pick a cat. And we can see we'll get a prompt to sign into our email address. Now, in most cases, you would want only company emails flowing through your company-owned computer and company-owned browser. So you can do browser restrictions based on domains. So for this, we just have our domain limited here. So we'll type in my email address. And just my 2FA prompt. To know you will get prompted for 2FA when you're doing this. And there you go. You can see we're asked to turn on sync, which we're going to do. You can see that'll bring in your extensions and things like your bookmarks will all show up here, which is great. Many companies might have multiple computers per person, so this kind of eliminates the idea of having to like hustle people's browsers from device to device. A lot of people are using this, but it's a nice feature nonetheless. Now, if we come over to our G Suite Enterprise Console, we will now see our browser. It's actually listed under devices because this falls all under both like enterprise Chrome devices, so that's things like Chromebooks, but it also has your managed browsers in here too. Come over here and we can see here's our test machine. So it looks kind of like an MDM would in most cases. It grabs device information, grabs your browser version, even down to like actual operating system information. Browsers can collect a lot more information than what might be seen on the surface. It'll actually give you where the profiles are located on the device, system architecture, some other like basic statistics. A lot of this information looks pretty basic, but you can actually manage the plugins from here. You can do custom fields, which are similar to like extension attributes, if you've seen those in your MDMs before. And now the cool part is you can actually manage extensions right through this. So let's say you have a sales team that needs mail merge or any other like popular Gmail extension that you would see in an office. You can actually, instead of having to like direct the user to like go to a download or like mess with trying to like package it yourself and deploy it, you can actually just have it pushed right through here. So there's no need to like worry about updating. All of that is taken care of just right through your G Suite admin portal. It's one less login too. So if we come back to just our Chrome settings, we can actually kind of dig into the options you have. Now this is showing us originally options for both like Chrome devices, Android devices, and browsers. So we're just going to filter this just to the browsers. Desktop. Now, there are a lot of settings in here, but we won't go into too much detail of some of the more advanced ones. We'll go over some of the basic stuff. Just gonna minimize all these. Sorry about the wait. Make it a little bit more readable. Okay, so sign-in settings, these are things where you would set like pattern matches or forcing users to sign in. So in this case, we don't have enforcement on, but in most cases you would have a regular expression to filter out what domain you want. So you can limit it just to your company domain. You can keep people from using their personal emails to run their Chrome profiles. And this is where you select like the forced or disabled browser sign-in. That's what you saw when you first open up with that profile page. Some security things, you can actually turn off password manager. You can do things like disabling incognito mode if you want to have concurrent browser history for everyone. A lot of like compliance focused things. You can turn off like geolocation. There's all kinds of like very specific settings you can get in touch with here. You can turn off like browser reporting back to Google if you want on a grand scheme of things. You can get down to like network proxies. There's a lot of stuff you can change. Might be helpful, I would say, in most cases for like a web development scenario, if you're trying to like have a very isolated test bench, you can actually set up specific parameters just for them. And all of this runs off organizational units. So if you're used to like group policy, or if you know how OUs work specifically in G Suite, you can get really specific on who gets what browser settings. And you can see over on the left-hand side, this is just like the master policy that we're looking at. You can actually break it out to different OUs, which is great if you have a company that has maybe multiple different Chrome extensions that different parts of the company need, different departments. We'll go and take a look at that. Apps and extensions. So here you can actually turn on the ability to allow or disallow apps or extensions from being installed. So I can think of clients that we have that, you know, they're using their iMacs in kiosk mode, which is much more locked down than a normal computer. Something like this would be really helpful in that situation because it allows us to manage the extensions, but not give the freedom of the users to just install whatever they want. And you can come down here and you can actually see different kinds of extensions. You have add by URL, you can do it by app extension or ID, or you can actually just go right from Google Play. So we're gonna open up the App Store for extensions. And boom, it looks pretty much like anything else you would see if you were just browsing for extensions yourself. You can search, you can, you know, look at like the most popular. Let's see, maybe we want Zoom deployed. Okay, so now, it's a little bit bigger. You can actually go and like specify if you just want like to allow it. You can whitelist or blacklist the application, and then you can also force the installation. Force and pin, if we look up here, you can see these little little icons. Those are pinned extensions. So if you force the install, it will just come up in the extensions list. If you pin it, you'll actually be able to see it right on the top bar. Just a small, nice feature, makes onboarding a little bit smoother, just overall lifecycle management. In my experience with working it, the less variables you have, the smoother the process can run for the end user, because you're starting a new job, you probably don't want to be fiddling around trying to download mail merge. So that's just some of the basic stuff you can do with it. You can also manage updates through it, which is huge. One less thing that you need to package if you are running an MDM, specifically if you're using Jamf, like we are, the more applications you have to juggle, the more difficult it can be. So one less thing that you can take off, you know, patch and update management's plate to keep things running a little bit smoother. And that's Chrome profiles.
That's awesome. Hey, I think you kind of answered my next question, but I was just going to say, like, I guess, was there something that you found while working on this or like learning how to build this that you're like, that's really cool, like we should absolutely turn that on? Or
absolutely. There's a couple of things. So one was finding out that you could do extensions with it. That was really neat. We had some problems like back, using this as my gauge of time, but like earlier in quarantine, when everyone was working remote and we had people that were hopping on personal computers and then like back on their work computers, they were missing extensions and their browsers were out of date. And it was just kind of a nightmare to manage that. So I found the extensions thing very helpful to use, as well as doing managed bookmarks. So say you have a list of company bookmarks that everyone needs to have access to quickly, you can actually throw a folder on everyone's computer. And I learned that you can do this even without Chrome profiles installed. If they just have a domain-bound email address, you can actually push out the managed bookmarks to every end user. Again, that all works off OUs, so you can do different ones for different people or different groups of people. And overall, just, again, more granular management. That was kind of an interesting thing to come across. I didn't know that existed, actually.
That's awesome. I think it's always really cool when you're, when you find something like that without realizing or even expecting it, especially when you're building out a system like this, like finding all the smaller settings, they're just like, that's the fun stuff.
Yeah, and like when you see there, I only like scrape the surface of the settings, like especially when you're going through like line by line, like you can do X, Y, and Z with this. You can check off this box, you can check off that box to find something that like is so immediately relevant and so applicable to what you're trying to do. You immediately start finding use cases for it. You can think of customers or think of clients that you need to implement this for, just based on previous tickets or like projects that you've done with them. So yeah, the more I work with G Suite, the more stuff I kind of discover. It's a bit of an onion. So
that's I would agree.
A rabbit hole.
I would absolutely agree. I guess my last question, and this is probably a quick one, but I guess what is the biggest benefit to the end user, and what's the biggest benefit to us as IT professionals by implementing this?
To the end user, I think of stuff like having your updates managed, having your extensions managed, having like your automatic set of bookmarks. Like when you first start at the company, like keeping track of a lot of that information when you first start somewhere is kind of difficult. And it's a new job, you're maybe a little bit scatterbrained. Having all that stuff just deployed immediately, and you don't have to like go and ask your manager for it, or like, dig through Slack to find some obscure link somebody sent you. I think that has like a real deliverable aspect to just the end user. And from an IT perspective, you're not hunting down like a bunch of extensions that people have installed that are constantly breaking their browser or breaking their Gmail or, whatever. It's more granular control, but it's granular control on things that have pretty drastic impact on the functionality of the browser. If you've ever, I hate to use this analogy, but if you've ever like modified a video game before, you're kind of modifying your browser when you start plugging in new tools to it. So having better control over that and having a better understanding of what's already on the people's computers or the users' computers is huge to an IT professional. It's less interaction you have to have. It's more seamless.
Cool. And so we'll see you, or we'll probably see you in the future for another session like this. We're going to try to do these every week. Again, thank you, Dan, for jumping on once again. And I'm Kris. We're both from the advisory, and everyone have a great day.
Take care, guys.